What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I'm going to be talking about the one and only NIO stock and what you should be looking after for the future. I'm also going to break down why underneath NIO in the market we're a little bit red today. However, we do have a big catalyst ahead of us for tomorrow as PPI is coming out, so I'm going to talk about what that is, how this may affect the markets, and everything you need to know about tomorrow. Now, before I break anything down, before I get into any more details, I do have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner. Don't take any of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. And not only benefits me, benefits the entire NIO community as a whole. And the last things, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you're guaranteed up to 12 free stocks, each worth up to $2,000. And the best part is any could be a free NIO share. It's a limited time offer. The offer ends today. So check it out before they run out to get those 12 free stocks before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. So anyways, when it comes to NIO and the way this thing is moving, this thing was actually down about 3.11% for the day, but the whole market did actually come down a bit after many pieces of news that came out. There was a lot of concerning news involving Russia, other big things coming out that did play a big role in why the market was moving. We saw things like this, which are not the best of things for diplomacy and also, the futures for the markets. However, it's not the end of the world because the market is still at a pretty high place compared to where it was over the last couple of weeks. If you look at SPY, all right, remember this thing was in the 370s just 5 days ago. All right, 5 days ago, we were in the 370s. We gapped up to about the 380s, and we actually remained in the 380 range up until like the 11th. So it wasn't until like Friday, barely on Friday, we broke past 390. We're still actually well above where we started on Friday. You have to remember that. Now, did we come down near the end of the day? Yes, but for most of the day, we were actually green and kind of trading sideways. We fought for 400. I mentioned previously, if we broke 400 and we started to fly, this would have pushed the market up very hard. This would have helped NIO. However, we got a big rejection off of it, but it's not the end of the world as of right now. And when I say this, I want to note that the next major level of support on SPY is going to be around that 394 level. However, I do anticipate there's going to be a nice bounce and a very bullish continuation because on a larger time frame, like I mentioned before, guys, this is just a small pullback compared to the crazy amount of green we had over the last couple of days. Completely normal. It's going to be okay. As long as we hold these levels and start to continue to hold, it should be fine. And I'm hoping for a nice continuation, a big push all the way back up to this upper trend line, which I still believe we are going to test relatively soon. Now, when it comes to the markets, specifically, I want to talk about the PPI report that's coming out. If you don't know what this is, the producer price index measures the average change over time in the prices domestic producers receive for their output. This is basically a measure of inflation at the wholesale level that is compiled from thousands of indexes measuring producer prices by industry and product category. This means that it's like CPI from the producer side, right? Not the consumers, the producers. And this is going to be very important for the markets. This is just another version of CPI in a way for producers, and this will affect how the market moves. It's coming out tomorrow before the market opens. I just want to know something important. That is, the last time this came out for the month of September, this actually came out on October 12th. All right. And when this came out on October 12th, look at how the SPY ended up moving on that specific day. So right before, on the 13th, when CPI came out, we got the big bounce. Right before, we actually came down a bit going into this date before a big bounce came. And you could see SPY actually went from like the 360 range all the way down to about 356, 355. So we dropped like 3% from the top the day before up until it came out. And this really shows that PPI can move the markets, all right? So what I'm basically going to be watching for is typically indexes don't make like predictions and they're not as like fixated on this because PPI is not deemed as important or maybe like as looked at as PPI is from mainstream articles, mainstream outlets. So in my honest opinion, if it's higher than expected, all right, if it rises month over month like last time, the market could actually come down a lot again compared to how much it went down today. We could see another red day. But if this thing is better than anticipated, the market's likely going to see a nice push to the upside, and we could see SPY retest 400 and maybe break past it pretty quickly. Because remember, this thing could run pretty hard if things do go our way, if the market likes it. And in my honest opinion, considering that CPI came out quite lower than expected, it's very likely And I'm not promising this, right? Because the market gives surprises, but I think it's more likely that PPI is going to be lower than anticipated. And I think that the market might actually get a nice bounce and start to push up a little bit more from here and hopefully break past that 400 zone. If we break and hold 400, that doesn't mean we just like touch 400 and come down. I'm talking about a nice break and hold above it. We have potential to fill the gap all the way up to that 407 zone. I really believe we could do that. And if we do end up doing that, we could get rejected off this trend line again. So that was my target. It still is my target. It's just taking a little bit longer than anticipated. Now, as the whole market came down, we started to see the QQQ and the Nasdaq get affected too. The Nasdaq was down about almost 1% for the day. If you look at this candle, it's very small compared to the amount of green we had over these last couple of days on the Nasdaq. So it shows that the bulls and the overall trend still looks bullish in a sense, but some consolidation is completely fine, and how we move is going to depend on the news. Now, for NIO, what on earth does this mean? Well, looking at NIO, this thing was down about 3.37% for the day. And the overall candle is not looking the best. It looks actually kind of bearish. So it does look like NIO could come down a little bit more. But if the market gets a big pump, if the market pushes up very, very hard, right, off PPI, NIO could actually get a nice continuation and start breaking past that $12 level. As I mentioned before, resistance is pretty strong, but once we get to that 12 to 13 zone, there's a zone right here where NIO saw a lot of activity. I do believe NIO could re-enter that zone, but we need a nice push. We need to hold very, very well. As far as the data goes, I'm noticing that NIO does have a very interesting price PERS ratio now. It still is holding up all right. It kind of underperformed today, but many banks still have nice buy ratings. Historically, NIO is green about 55% of the time on Tuesdays, so hopefully we get a green Tuesday. And on top of that, when it comes to short interest, this has been downtrending, but it's not the end of the world because this may have come up a little bit, in my opinion. I think some shorts did start to pile in, but it does not change the fact that NIO does have more potential to continue pushing. The overall volume was at about 61 million, and the overall short volume percentage, I believe this did start to come up a bit, which is completely fine after this big drop that we saw. So it should be closer to that 55% zone or around there, which means that some shorts did gain somewhat of an edge in this stock compared to how it moved on Friday. They had less of an edge back then. This means that NIO will likely consolidate in this range, and we're going to be very reactive to the big articles, the news that comes out for tomorrow on PPI. And I believe it's more likely that we actually hold one of these zones, because as long as we hold like $11 flat, for instance, we still are technically making a higher low, and this thing will have a bullish thesis. Because on the 5 minutes, when I zoom out, look at this price action. All right, we had a very nice push all the way up to the 12s, came down, another push up followed by a bit of a sell off as the day went on. And on the 5 minute, we ended up retesting the 200 EMA. Hopefully we get a nice bounce off that. So if NIO comes down, guys, this is what you have to watch. You have to watch this $11 zone. If NIO breaks below 11, we have a lot of room. All right, we have a lot of room to come all the way down here and maybe fill this gap down to 10.3. Now, does this have to happen in one day? Not necessarily, but it is something I just want to warn everyone about. However, when you zoom out of this chart and look at the last like couple of days, NIO came down to that 9, got a big bounce, hitting that 10.8, came down a little bit, got another push up, followed by a bit of a slowdown. So what I'm thinking is, as long as we hold $11, this thing still has a bullish thesis, and this thing could start to push up again. And it really wants to break past this 11.66 resistance level. We actually broke past it, but then we got a big rejection right below it. So I'm hoping for NIO, at least for tomorrow. I think we're going to move based off the news, and I think that more upside is a little bit more likely depending on the markets, because PPI is more likely to be lower than before, and that could be very positive, and we could see NIO get another push and hopefully retest $12. I want to see this thing hold and break past it. But if we do consolidate again, completely fine. All right, it's completely fine if we consolidate, because consolidation is just another sign of strength for the markets. It's kind of like the rocket fuel being reloaded into this stock. And I do believe this thing has more bullish potential as long as the market continues to pump, which I believe it most likely will relatively soon. So overall, guys, tomorrow is going to be dependent on PPI, but my thesis is still more in favor of the bulls because SPY looks like it has more room to keep going. So does the QQQ. And I do believe that we have more potential, in my opinion. So I'm hoping for NIO to get a nice push above $12 tomorrow. And relatively soon, I'm hoping that we actually hold better zones. I want to see some good volume on this thing. I want to see the buyers really step in. Because remember, like I said before, historically, Tuesdays tend to be green days for this stock. With that said and done, watch PPI tomorrow. Let's see if this thing can break and hold above that $12 zone. We are not extremely far from it. We are a little far, but not extremely far. And it's not the end of the world to see red like this after so much green. Thank you for listening. Have a great rest of the day. Be ready, and I'll see you guys in the next one. NIO to the moon because the long-term future is still incredibly bright. And peace out.